So we actually have a variety of programs for the Esports Association. One is career readiness. So we actually work with the Career Center here to better prepare our association members to learn those life skills that they are going to need so that when they make that transition over to a career pathway.
Awesome. This guy, we gotta turn around. This guy wins almost every tournament we throw. I'm telling you. You gotta watch him live. He's gonna be something big.
CSUDH Esports Association is centered in 4 domains: academics and research, community engagement, competition, and entertainment.
We're trying to make sure that the students are prepared for the future, that they understand the diversity that media offers now, and again, look beyond the traditional outlets.
They can gain fieldwork, partnerships, as well as potential job opportunities and in both the higher education and K-12 fields.
We believe that esports is a strategy and not an outcome. Our association is here to help anyone that is willing to learn how to take your gaming skills to the next level through a supporting community. If you are looking to showcase your production talents to help support our esports teams, then this is the association for you. We host online and on-site tournaments that will allow our members to showcase their competitive spirit. Our association broadcasts out our competition and practices to entertain our community as well as our global audience. We believe that by joining us, you will come out of the association feeling transformed and better prepared to transfer your skills into your career. Join today and begin to explore endless opportunities through our Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
All right. Hi, welcome everyone. So glad that you found your way to the Twitch channel, and I just wanted to say welcome, and I'm going to introduce our distinguished speaker, Ruben Caputo, who is the director of esports here at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and we've just been chatting for a few minutes, and it's been great. I know he has a lot in store and a lot to share from his experience and his passions, so I want to hand it over. If you are having any trouble, feel free to email me, and I can and I'll try to talk with you as we're going to help anyone get online, or if anyone's in the Instagram chat and they're lost, either help them or send them to me, okay? But for now, I would like to pass it over to Ruben.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. First of all, thank you all for tuning in for today's seminar. And just want to give everybody a quick little announcement, is that we can't do the work without you all. So first of all, thank you for taking that step and inviting you into the Twitch platform. This is Cal State Dominguez Hills Esports official Twitch channel. If you like what you see and on our channel space, feel free to give us a like, follow, what have you. We have different social media outlets as well. And without, I guess, any further ado, I guess the topic today is the Dream Seminar. So I'm happy to begin, and just please, this is all for you. So in the chat box, feel free to chat in your questions at any point, and there will be that Q&A segment that we can go back and forth. All right. Excellent. So Dr. Ryan, you let me know, how would you like me to begin? This is for our students.
Sure. Well, you're the first of a number of speakers that we're having come, because the topic of our particular Dream Seminar course is Youth in the Community, Pathways to a Meaningful Future. And we have all been youth in communities, and the students have the option, multiple reasons for signing up for the course, but some have real interest in pursuing a career that could benefit youth in their communities. And so we're interested always to know in connections that direction. But another big point of the Dream Seminar is that for them to dream for their own lives and dream for their own college careers and where they could go in college. So understanding what esports is would be great to hear a little bit more about. And a big thing I think is great is to get connected with a lot of adults in the community who have gone through college and gotten into careers, and to hear a little bit about their own experiences. So all of that we would love to hear more about.
Love it. Love it. Excellent. Well, I think just to address everyone, start a little bit about what is esports and sort of gravitate to what it is that we do at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and then how we essentially make that impact to the community. So esports, essentially, if you were to Google it, you'll find millions of definitions what esports is. Much of it is getting into a competitive video gaming space, if you will, and being able to showcase certain game titles that require more team concept and competing at a level that essentially is pretty superb. And you're competing against all sorts of members from different parts of different communities around the states, around the world, and essentially viewers, if you will, people that are in tune or enthusiasts, typically follow, and they become essentially the big fans, if you will, of the esports world. And so it kind of promotes essentially the industry to move forward in that direction. So how we do it here at Cal State Dominguez Hills is we officially, so that everybody knows, just turned 3 years old. So we're pretty much in our infant stages in the Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez. And essentially, it just started with a lot of interest in, hey, do you like to game? Do you like to play video games in your leisure time? And started off very small, and then lo and behold, as the number started growing, we started creating this like impact in our campus, and we were just connecting to wall outlets wherever we can find one. And from that point, we essentially noticed that our numbers were growing, and we were creating all sorts of fire hazards in the halls. And so the Office of Student Life said, look, we got to create a space for you all. And at, let's see here, Local Student Union, by the game room, if you will, that's the lower level, they created sort of these like, sort of like this cubicle space, sectionals, if you will, with TVs mounted. And you would see a lot of our members there connected and playing games as a way to sort of stress relief, right? A way to essentially connect with peers. Also ways to make new friends, to network. And the numbers were growing, and essentially we couldn't even find a place to meet in a physical space. And to like reserve a room that can hold over 100 people was just almost hard to do. I mean, impossible to do at one point. And so we decided that we would just do it in almost sections, if you will, and kind of break us off into teams so that everybody had sort of this subgroup committee or community as well that pertained to something that they were interested in. How we uncovered, hey, we really like the gaming aspect of it, but we do identify who our competitive gamers are, those that are playing at a high level or pursuing this path to play against other schools, right? Other neighboring schools, or sometimes schools that are from different parts of the states. And we would connect online, or we would invite them. In some of the cases, we would go to their locations and we would play to represent Cal State Dominguez Hills. And so it became very competitive. And at the same time, it sort of carried on this like spirit of, hey, our members, whether they played competitively or not, wanted to help and support and sort of cheer on their classmates, which is really cool to see. And also the other aspect was those that just play casually. Hey, I just do this for fun, which is I like to learn a new game. I like to talk about the game, perhaps the development of a game, the music of a game. And so created subgroups from that. And so that was really neat to witness and experience as well, because there's more to it than just the competitive space. And so really makes esports. Esports is a lot of it is the many hands and different roles that people play to make the production come alive. And so we started developing a team that just focused on the production side. So they would just focus on getting a stream up like what you're seeing today. So this is really neat that you're all in here, because this is a big piece of inviting you into a space that essentially our esports association produces, right? This is sort of our virtual arena, if you will, that you all are in. And so with that, we just noticed that the community wanted more. We wanted to, from what I heard from our student voices, is to connect with other campuses to see what it is that they were doing, how they were structuring themselves, how they were organizing, and started to collaborate on event planning, which was really neat because what really happened naturally was the resources were being shared. We were essentially trying to do what we had at the moment and essentially say, hey, we're all bringing our own equipment, but if another neighboring campus has equipment they can loan, that exchange was happening. And so hosting and being able to essentially culminate, it's really what I would call it, when we would host or participate in tournaments or e-game nights, if you will, where you're just coming into a space and sort of celebrating the culture of gaming, and was just there to essentially talk and play and just root. And so it just came sort of its own natural force of, hey, we want to do more of this, and so let's keep this going. And it was perfect to essentially build community, and so the community therefore expanded. And so a lot of the communication, if you will, got really tightened up, especially during COVID. um, so we essentially have our own Discord server, and so that's where we communicate with all the association members. And so we communicate with hundreds of members that are in our server and are aware about our events, the planning. It could be that you want to participate in contributing something that you would want to promote. And so we would be open to it. And we have subgroups of leadership members in the association that would handle that operations. And so essentially it started to become a little bit more tighter and more concise of information relaying because, well, we need to still work as a team and as a community, especially in this digital era. So it just led to a lot of esports community members getting together in the numbers and saying, hey, we really need this because we find it as a great outlet to celebrate and at the same time honing in skill sets that, hey, I've been noticing this particular member doing, and I'd like to strive to do the same. And so it easily became a very peer-to-peer mentoring, learning moment, which we love because it just increased, that conversation that led into a lot of training, and a lot of it was like technical training, and then also helping our students find what it is that they were studying and seeing how they can bridge that over to something that they like and slash possibly love doing. Um, Excellent. So, and I think you mentioned earlier, Dr. Ryan, about the community pathway, right? How we were starting to grow. So hopefully that answers uh, that question. But again, I welcome anybody to chat in if you have any questions and stop me there if you need more of a clarification. But essentially, with that community, and I share that story because without that, we wouldn't have really known what people wanted, right? What is it that students need? And if you ask many of our members, the number two, I mean, I'll tell you the two things they'll tell me the most that I hear is we want to improve our communication skills, and number two, we want to develop friendships or networks, right? And so, so we took that, very seriously and thought, okay, well, how do we do that? How do we do that in the spaces that you're currently pursuing? Because everyone is coming from a different place, right? So some may not have any interest in playing games, or will say to you, "Oh, I'm just not, I'm not the greatest, but I've played games in the past." But I just like the aspect of talking to people, especially people from different parts of the world. Well, that's great. We need people that can coordinate, can plan, that can essentially even lead into um, marketing the event, if you will, if you're looking to promote us, or to see if there's a way to collaborate. And so we have people that would do that, essentially spark up new relationships and say, hey, this is really neat what you're doing. Maybe we take some of those ideas and try to implement it to find new ways to community build. And so with that, we are in higher ed. And so we have partnerships with other school districts, K through 12. So, we have the biggest, actually, the second largest school district in the nation is LAUSD. And so, my background is I work in the College of Education. And so I have essentially, and I work in a graduate program as well. So I have a lot of those ties and relationships. And so essentially many of the schools don't currently have a esports association on their campus. And so looking what that looks like, some people may think, well, is it just taking what you currently have in a computer lab and just turning it into an esports lab? Not quite, not quite. It's a little bit different than that. It's a little bit more dynamic, more didactic, if you will. Um, and actually trying to produce an esports club or something that would lead into an enrichment course, which is what we promote essentially, so that we can build stronger numbers, if you will, within each campus, because the goal is to build ecosystems, right? So that way everyone is self-sufficient in trying to produce with the resources that they have, but knowing very well, based off what we experience, that there's always going to be this opportunity to share resources, so that we essentially come in the middle and build that community, so that community can be platformed into a direction that will help them identify who they are in building something new. And so we had a chance this past summer, great opportunity to work with Compton Unified School District. And those are clearly our neighbors geographically where we're located. And we worked with them for about 4 weeks. I would say the planning took longer than that, but the actual execution was 4 weeks, 3 days, and for about 2 hours each day. And essentially, we did our very first mentorship program, an esports mentorship program. So we tied in some of the academic pieces in the very beginning, and then from that, we were able to break up the students from the Compton School District with and pair them up with our mentors, Cal State Dominguez Hills mentors, and actually help them start their actual esports journey and playing into a particular game that led into a team-based game. And so for those that are watching, thinking, what game was this? This was the Overwatch game. So this is an Overwatch game, very popular, very esports friendly, if you will. It's very known, and so that was the game of choice. And so we essentially have an actual competitive team, and our members that play in the competitive space immediately raise their hands to say, "Hey, we want to be mentors. We practice on a regular basis, and what we know is how to balance college life, right? And also being able to be active members in the community of esports." And so what we uncovered, and this was high school students, so that everyone's aware, and these were grades between 10th grade and 12th grade. And so that peer-to-peer interaction was super big. I mean, I can tell you and teach you, but at the end of the day, you're not going to listen to me. uh, and I don't say that, with any rude remark or anything like that. It's to essentially say, you know what, it's better to have sort of that, hey, these are your peers. You're not too far off in age, and you guys are experiencing something almost at the same timeline. And so knowing what that felt like in the past, and when we say in our youth, right, it's only a state of mind, right? So essentially, having our students being able to remember, hey, I remember what it was like to be in high school because it wasn't too far off, and I know some of the fears that some of the students are encountering right now. And so that led to essentially the magic, right? Essentially to start building the relationship. And so very quickly, especially in this time, that we experienced with the remote learning and trying to see if we can even make this work, we thought to ourselves, hey, esports, is very COVID resistant. Even though we're not all together in a physical space, we're connected all together. And so understanding some of that digital space was something that we unpacked in the very, very beginning so that everybody knows that we're here, first of all, that you're not alone and don't think you can do it alone. Um, Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And so essentially, we establish what digital citizenship looks like so that we can all respect the community when we're coming in and put a lot of effort on the health and wellness side, which I think it's missed in many esports programs and organizations out there. And so, really, our movement is to continue that effort so that other campuses, other schools, if you will, in higher ed, doesn't matter, just all can start adopting that more so, that principle, and take it serious because it's very key, right? And so we talk about, hey, where we're at in the real world, um, if we're not in the safest space, if we're essentially dealing with a lot of negativity, what we don't want to do is then outlet that into the virtual space, right? The virtual space, we have a little bit more creativity and control of what we want to put in. Sometimes there's things in the outside that we can't control. And so, and that's just a part of life. And so essentially what we want to do is celebrate, have fun, keep our community growing, be conscious of who's in our community so that we're not saying something that would lead into toxicity or could lead into offending someone. Again, we all know what that feels like. And so when we enter someplace new, and so essentially that was really key for us to build that because, well, quite frankly, if I ask the question to you all, or even to myself, did you have an esports association growing up as a kid? Many of you would say no. So this is very new in territory. And so the best that we can do is just say, hey, look, you have an opportunity because you're starting or being aware of this at a younger age to start essentially that seed planting to help others. Really, that should be the goal in anything that you do, is at the end of the day, how are we connecting? How are we helping others find those connections, if you will? And so with that opportunity, it just, some of the details, and there's more reading about it too, so I won't go super in depth in detail. We had some coverage on it. So essentially, it led to our students, what we uncovered was the social emotional side of esports, which was very key. So essentially, these are students that don't have the best equipment at home. When I say equipment, this is like computers. Some of them don't have the best internet. They're sharing either one computer or they're just using their mobile devices. And so, in a space like that, we had a chance to essentially promote this with Compton, leading into Compton having to receive some in-kind gifts, which was really neat, that we're able to loan out equipment. And when I say loan out equipment, this was gaming computers that, and these are not the cheapest computers. These are some of the most expensive ones out there in the market. But to basically enable that into a student's hands and take it home, really where it counts, to showcase to parents, to siblings, what it is that they were doing in esports. Lo and behold, I was getting phone calls from parents saying, whatever you're doing, please keep doing it. Our child is having a blast and is learning a lot and is talking a lot of technology language that I don't understand, and it sounds super smart. That was some of the comments I would receive. And so that was really neat to hear. But what was uncovered is that the students, would share with me saying, Mr. Caputo, like, I just like that we get to connect and we get to learn through this simulation game. And my communication skills, like I've learned how to make it more concise so that I can help my teammates, how to take my role serious, and and how to actually understand what a gap analysis is, what it is that we are lacking at this moment, what our goals are, and what are the steps that we're going to take to get there. And again, that comes sort of from that strategic point of mind of, okay, we're doing this as a team. There is no one player that does this alone. And so it led into other conversations to get to know each other more. And so those icebreakers became easy to do, if you will. And just mind you, these kids, when we had the chance to mentor them, we mixed them up into groups that they were from different high schools. And we did that with that intention because, well, what they all wanted was to build community. And so the only way to do it is you have to get out of that comfort zone a little bit. And so step into that space and just be willing to meet new people. And something that we always say is we can teach anybody as long as you're willing to learn. And so we were happy to take anybody to join the mentorship program. So that was a big bulk of summer, but we didn't stop there. We wanted to do more. And so a lot of our association got a chance to check in on us and see how we all did. And essentially, they saw that we did this big production that the students essentially led. And that was very key for us because what I was talking about with Dr. Ryan earlier is that essentially esports, playing video games. I mean, if you talk to some of your teachers and just ask them, hey, have you ever played video games? Someone will say, yeah, I've played them. Maybe it's games that probably you've never heard of, but that's okay. There's some aspect, right? Many of the video games, the industry at least got disrupted when the internet met video games, right? They both collided and it disrupted this whole method of multiplaying, right? And doing these challenges that you don't typically, seen, from before. So it's led to a lot more innovative practices out there. So essentially, there's some baseline level knowledge, right? And then it's really neat to have that conversation to say, well, this is what I'm into. What do you think about this? Gosh, if this was something back that I had when I was young, man, I'd be all over it. So you start finding connections. And so the community itself, what we explained is, you're part of a community, but you're also part of other communities. And it's really neat to see if you can connect those communities all together. So that essentially creates this movement. And that's what we asked the students to do. We said, look, we're not here to take this away from you. This is yours. This is your space. And essentially, what we were doing is meeting students in the middle, right? We were taking those steps. And us taking those steps was just really what we were hearing back from the students is we need some guidance, we need some direction from time to time so that we know what we're doing is the proper method to essentially reach the communities that we want to reach. And with that being said, the students were asking for, hey, wouldn't it be great? Because when I practice or when I'm in the zone, quote unquote, I like to listen to music, to have a musical presence. And we thought, heck, that's a great idea. So we had a local musical artist come in and create the soundtracks for our productions. That was really neat to tie in another community that perhaps never thought of joining this community. And so essentially it started to build some momentum. They thought, hey, that production was really neat. The music was blended in nicely with what it is that you guys produced. And lo and behold, our numbers of viewership was growing. And again, it's that power of trying to introduce and finding ways to connect those dots. Many organizations out there will give you the opportunity, but you have to help them connect the dots. So that's and just I'll just share this little short story, but that's how we were able to get a sponsor like Pizza Hut to essentially sponsor this event. Is literally taking a phone call, explaining to the marketing director how this all connects into somehow Pizza Hut getting some of their objectives met and finding those dots to be connected. And it wasn't just, hey, these are just the people that were offering it. It's this is what we're looking to do and pursuing it also look past that. And so you're showing them that vision as well. So and there's a lot of power in that if you're able to kind of see what you're doing and then at the same time never forcing the issue, seeing if there's opportunities for organic growth, because that's usually the best route to actually showcase, hey, this is where we're going. It'd be nice to do this. And then when you have so many voices, you get those diverse minds into play that essentially help um, inform a lot of the decisions you're making so that you're making the best ones. And so that community expanded, and I think we had, gosh, like over a little over 2,000 views cumulative over 3 days, which was very impressive considering what we were all doing. And we had no idea, like none of that was something we had planned. We just thought, look, if we just put our best efforts, we'll get what we put in. And so it grew, and needless to say. And so from that, we decided to do something else. And this is something, again, the planning did take a couple of months. And essentially, we wanted to do the very first um, collegiate charity speedrun marathon. And so that was really cool to see as well. We were the first to do it. So that was really cool to claim that. um, and this is from all colleges around our nation and that we know of around the world. Nobody has done something like this. And so it gives us a great deal of pride to say that we were the first. But at the same time, it's not really to say we're the first, but the idea was, how can we help now other communities that are not into gaming, or not to say that they're not into it, they're just, that's not their focus. Their focus is helping others in other capacities, other needs. And so one organization that came to mind that we were able to get connected through organization on campus called Slice, which highly recommend. And so worked with Dr. McKnight, and she's just a lovely person, just truly, and got a chance to meet and work with her over the summer, and essentially connected me to another organization called the East Side Riders Bikers Club. And their organization is amazing. What they do, essentially, they help the good people in Watts, and they essentially, their initiative is to get kids off of games and make them do something recreational, like ride bicycles. And they help the community, especially now because of COVID. They serve up to 800 people daily, Monday through Friday. They feed them breakfast and lunch, and also do other activities. Like recently, the founder shared with me that back to school weekend, they were able to supply families with gift cards to go grocery shopping, and giving their kids free haircuts, and also gift cards to go buy new pairs of shoes and things of that nature to essentially help people. So we thought, wait a second, how does this relay with video games or esports, period? Like, where is the dot connection there, Ruben? So that was the question that was being asked of me. And we thought, well, we have an idea. And so the students led it, and I just was the voice. And I said, look, our students are connecting with more people around the world than we think. And we're grateful that we have this platform in Twitch. And so we were able to see our analytics, and we were meeting as a cabinet, as a group, and we were thinking, here's our analytics. We're connecting with people from the UK, from Australia, from South America, from different parts of the world. And we're thinking, what is it that lots of people are viewing right now that is drawing this attention? And so we were looking at some of the stats. And so an idea came about that we possibly start thinking of, let's bring in other members from around the world, because they're part of our esports community, or they're part of the gaming community. And we, as the association, throw an event that promotes this organization, and just do a charity run where we're essentially saying any donorship will go to help this charity, also highlight them from around the globe, and be able to show content of playing games in the fastest way possible, so that people can be entertained with people's times to beating these games, right? So you think of any game, and I guess a popular one, let's just say Super Mario Brothers, right? I think most people know that one. and think about how long it takes you to beat that game. It may take you 20 plus hours, right? Okay, well, these runners would beat that in probably less than an hour. And so they were doing this in like world record pace. And so in that, they were also educating new viewers and current members as well, um, and how they would do it. So, and this is not hacking the game of any sort. This is them finding the actual loopholes of the publishers and saying, look, these are frame rates that are essential to the game, but we found a way to essentially bypass that. And using that digital literacy really help notify the community, especially new viewers, to go, holy smoke, this looks like a magic show. And so lo and behold, we did our very first marathon run where we organized people from all over the world. We had runners from France, we had runners from different parts of England run. We had people from another community that's very big in um, charitable events participate as well, do commentary to the actual gameplay, which made the watching experience or the viewing experience very educational. And lo and behold, in 2 days, we were able to promote uh, Watts and the organization at large. And I showed this to the founder, and the founder even joined in, couldn't believe what he was seeing, that video games can do this, right? Can connect people to a shared space, to also have fun, and to also talk about great charities that others are a part of, and then develop that dialogue. And essentially, we were able to raise we were able to raise $1,700 in 2 days. And that all went straight to the organization. And my goodness, the founder was just amazed to see how much in 2 days can you do, right? And we did this all digitally. We did not meet in the same space or in an arena or auditorium. And we had, again, over thousands of people watching and tuning in. And so that again led to the helping hands of, hey, even if you couldn't help, you were able to be a part of that. You were still helping just by viewing, because your viewership led to essentially witnessing what you possibly could do next. And so it led to other people that saw this event to say, hey, Ruben, how can we do this? You know, in our community, we live in the state of Arizona or Colorado. How can we do this? And essentially that inspiration again is to say, look, if you can listen, um, then you're able to serve, and then you just repeat that again. That's how simple it is. Listen and serve and repeat. And so these are just little tools, if you will, or what you want to start putting in your mindset of where are those needs, right? As we're dreaming, these are students that love to game, but they were challenging themselves a little bit, is how can we help others to kind of see a little bit about our passion and what we like to do. And when you think of dreaming, you know, people sometimes think about your dream job. Sometimes those dream jobs don't exist. We have to kind of make them happen, right? We have to sort of think outside the box. And so, especially during this time of COVID, we're doing a lot of outside the box thinking. And so, essentially, you have a lot more control than you think. And sometimes getting others that have this like mind perception of, hey, I'd like to work with you. Well, don't be shy. You know, whenever there's a chance, just take it. You never know. That's how a community starts getting built. And essentially, that's what led to other inspirations from other campuses, which we're thrilled about. And so they're going to invite us to their events. And again, back and forth, the community just keeps expanding. And what's neat about this is that these ideas essentially, younger students get a chance to participate and do something to help even their local clubs in a big way, to help fundraise or promote awareness, if you will, whatever those objectives are. So, needless to say, now we're in the fall. We just started, right, in the swing of things. And what we're doing now is it's not stopping. You know, we now are getting a chance to work with other schools that see the importance and values of esports. So when you think about it, in the beginning when I defined it, yeah, it's a particular game or games that you play that's team based and you compete against others. But how do you expand that, right? That's the question. How do you essentially take what that is and make it into something that's a little bit more um, driven to the people, right? If esports is centered around people, how do we give it to the people that may not have that? And so we work with communities that are a little bit on that disadvantaged side, right? That digital divide is very much real around our community, and getting that chance and that exposure, and even with some of our students that never witnessed some of this stuff, but now getting to see that, they start feeling that pain and sympathy. And so if you can have that, then you're able to start thinking outside the box. Okay, well, sometimes we have to loan, sometimes we have to ask, we have to write to other industries to see how we can drive more with their help, right? Because they have the needs or capabilities at the moment. And that's where I see the dot connecting being super crucial when you're building communities, is to look at that dot and see it as an opportunity. And that's how you're able to essentially start the dialogue to say, hey, would this be something of interest? And not to be afraid of getting responded, not right now or no. Essentially, it doesn't mean your idea is flawed, or doesn't mean that your dream is impossible. It just means that essentially you have more opportunity, or you're getting that much closer to the yes. And so that really helped our students understand that what it is that we're doing, how can we continue to do it, because the feeling that we're all getting is memorable. How can we give that to others to experience? Well, sometimes it starts with the communities you have now. And so we would share with our students and say, look, how many of you talk to your parents about this? And surprisingly enough, many of them said no. We don't talk to our parents about this, or we don't talk to other communities other than the ones that we're a part of. And I said, well, there you go. Why don't we start there? Perhaps your parents want to know a little bit about what you're doing, or maybe they have the wrong perception of what it is that you're doing, and you can clarify that. And so we very much invite parents to be involved into our streaming, into our talks, into our mixers, or culminations, if you will, because they get a chance to see a little bit about what it is you're doing. And I would say most parents lean on the side of they're going to support you. um, but again, and again, it's really everybody to each their own, and maybe it's other members within your community that would support you into that fashion or manner. But it's not to stop there. It's to really say, look, if I don't have this, do I stop? Really start asking yourself those questions. And if you've got that drive enough that you start thinking, no, I can't stop there. I got to keep going. I got to pivot, got to adapt. Then things start to happen, and you're starting to see things a little bit in a wider lens, and it leads to other opportunities. And yeah, so I hope now, Dr. Ryan, I want to make sure I answer questions. Were there any questions at this moment?
Well, I can ask a couple of questions, but I can't see actually on the Twitch channel the chat. So, but
Oh,
I would
okay.
encourage if we could encourage any of the students to
Yes.
chat in their questions on the channel, that would be really great. Are there any specific directions they need to do that?
So at this moment, I don't see any questions either. I see a lot of, oh, actually, I do see a question that just came in. Thank you so much for your question. So for anybody that wants to ask questions, there is a chat section where you can type in your question, and we will get to them right now. Okay, so the question I see here, since COVID, has the esports community grown and have more gamers uh, involved since everyone has been playing at home? Have you seen growth in new Twitch streamers? That's a great question. Thank you so much. So yes, to answer you, yes, I think a lot of it is that people are at home trying to find other outlets, right? Somebody did share with me, a member from the association, saying, Ruben, I have this competition, I need an outlet, and I can't go outside and play the sport that I like. So I need to outlet this competitiveness that's in me. And I said, great. You know what? Esports could be your thing right now. And this is probably what you need. So we got a new member connected that way. And this was a transfer student. And so transfer students, new students, essentially, they're all looking for ways to connect with communities. And so we're glad that they were part of our association. And again, there's a way that we introduce our new members too, so that way they understand what it is that we uphold. And so the answer is yes, it has grown. We're close to doubling in size from early this year. We're close to about 200 members, but we have like members from our past that are still connected. So sort of our alumni group, if you will. And again, that's the whole mentorship component of we keep that peer-to-peer even alive and well within our association. And then yes, new streamers. So we teach. So essentially, if you're looking to stream and doing some gameplay online and you don't know how to do it, then you're able to reach out to us and we're able to help you with that. And so we promote channels, even I believe in even our own channel here. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's recommended channels, and those are some of our captains that stream some of the gameplay and the match play. Great question, thank you. And if there's more, please feel free.
Yeah.
But at this moment, I don't see any, but I'm happy to answer your questions, Dr. Ryan.
Okay. Well, if a student, say a student who is listening right now, would be wanting to get in touch and check out, spend a little more time checking out esports and involvement, what would be their first step? What should they do?
Excellent. Yes. So if you're interested, so the Office of Student Life, so OSL, we have a Toro link. Essentially, it's a matter of clicking that link and just clicking join. And once you join, you receive an email either from myself or one of our captains welcoming you. And the Discord community, which is our communication application, if you will, um, you will be invited there. And essentially, we get you partnered up with the game titles that you're most interested in. And if you're just trying to feel out the lay of the land, that's a great place to also make new connections and really just hang out and be part of the association. And then you put in again what you want to take out of the experience, and you'll also connect with myself. And then I'm able to help with you one-on-one or as a group, and able to schedule any kind of appointment from that point. But yeah, and our socials are there too. You can see all of our events. Our community is very active, and so they'll promote many of our events that are up and coming. And happy to share those links too for afterwards too.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
see
everyone.
questions.
Oh, go ahead. Good. Go. Let's
Um,
do this.
yeah, excellent. So the next question here is, what are you most excited for in the future of esports? Oh, that's a great question. And this is from Caleb. Thank you so much, Caleb. So what we're excited. So we naturally, again, when I mentioned about this organic growth, so over the summer, we were getting a lot of input from our student voices saying, I mean, one that really resonated with me still does, saying to me, Ruben, the only part of normal I have is when we connect in our esports community. So we can't stop. And so that resonated with me a lot. And this came from a student that doesn't typically speak much in our association, but when he spoke, I listened to that. And that's where I mentioned earlier, listen, serve, and repeat. And so what essentially led, and I also want to give quick shout out to Yusuf Andrews, who's the producer of all that you see right now, is Yusuf and I had this chance of, you know what, let's get people from the esports industry to talk about what it is that they're doing, and in turn help inspire our students to possibly pursue these tracks. Because let me tell you, nobody graduated with an esports degree. Like I mentioned, this is fairly new in many spaces. And so a lot of the skill sets and concentrations, all of that, we wanted to know more. The students wanted to know more. And so in turn, it led into this talk show session that we would have, and we interviewed people from the industry. And what was really neat is even other industries that inform the practices of this industry were also on. And so before you know it, we have now, I think we're a little over 20 episodes in, and we have a couple more set for the fall. And I was just talking to Dr. Ryan. I'm excited for a particular one that's coming up soon this week. And essentially, what we noticed is the industry themselves haven't figured it out yet. And when I say that, there's a lot of room for growth. And so we brought in a faculty member on our campus. Her name is Monique Turner, and wonderful person, first of all. Got to meet with her last week and essentially brought in that health and wellness side that we were looking for, and explaining positive thinking, explained to us resiliency, also explained to us microaggressions. And even some members in our community didn't know what that meant. And that's okay. We're here to learn. And if you don't know what it means, then you wouldn't know if you're experiencing it or not, right? So we had to define that. And so for us, it led to thinking, wait a second, if we want to be the best versions of ourselves, and if some of our players, if you will, or members want to be at the highest level of competition, you really need to be well here, because esports is very much a mental game, right? If you compare this to real sports or traditional sports, as they say, then you can witness somebody limping off a field and see that they probably twisted an ankle. But in esports, there's no limping off the field, right? The twisting, if you will, happens in here. So we need to make sure that we're okay in our mindsets. And so checking one another outside of the gameplay was very important to us, and not always talk about the gameplay. Sometimes it's other things about life, so that we help and know that we're not alone. And so that's where a lot of that came in, and you don't see that very much in the industry. So it led to us thinking, you're a psychology major and you like to game, perhaps there's an opportunity to bridge those two together, right? And so if you ask the industry themselves, what they will tell you is they're looking for industry leading practices. So in turn, what we are trying to do is to promote that, so that the industry comes really to us, and we're able to incubate ideas that perhaps the industry isn't focused in right now. And so that is what I'm most excited about, is to uncover those industry leading practices. Great question, by the way. There's another question that came in. I'll answer. So can controller players play with a teammate that has a mouse or keyboard? That's a great question. It really depends on the game. If it's a cross-platform game, and so what that means is if you buy a game that, let's say, fits on a console compared to a PC, will that game speak to the same game, right? Or will you be able to connect on the same map, on the same server space? So that really depends. And then on a PC side of things, let's say you can purchase a controller setup. So it really depends. And also, this is really neat to be part of the community, is that the community will educate and inform, right? They will say things like, hey, you know what, for this game, it requires a PC to play. And so for the best controller setups, it's best to use mouse and keyboard. And what particular mouse and keyboard? And sometimes you think, well, gosh, I got to purchase the most highest and advanced ones. No, not really. They'll tell you sometimes, hey, this does the job. And sometimes those really high, expensive techie ones are just for show. So, you don't have to necessarily fall into those traps. So the community is very real. And so they will tell you what is preferred, so that you could be as successful as possible as you're pursuing the game. But that's a great question too, because you would think naturally, hey, maybe a controller is, but not always the case. So it really depends on the game. So to answer that question. Okay. Great questions. Keep them coming. Those are the questions at this moment. Was there any other ones, Dr. Ryan?
Sure. Well, I'll just make a quick ad for the health and wellness video, because it's assigned for later in the term, and you'll have an opportunity, everyone in the class will have an opportunity to watch it as well. And I know that a lot of people watched the cognition and microaggressions video with Dr. Monique Turner for last week, and the reflections that I read were strong and positive. So thank you. I mean, we're benefiting from the work that you've done as well. You know, outside of the esports community, on those, as far as they're perfect, I think, for new students in their freshman year coming in and, you know, focusing not just getting the assignments turned in on time, but the community of understanding microaggressions and racialization. And then also the health and wellness one is great, you know, not because you need to take care of your wellness, your physical, mental, emotional, I mean, all of that wellness to do well in school. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so thank you. They're really, really terrific quality.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yes. And
Um,
thank you for tuning in and checking that out. And again, your feedback is super important, crucial. And yeah, I mean, it's to promote awareness in what it is that we're doing. Um, and if you want
yeah,
to know more, like I said, you can easily connect with us through the Toro link and other platforms as well. And
sure.
don't be shy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if in the absence of other questions, you know, an assignment that this class had that was due last Friday was to interview someone who, you know, had been in college recently or was farther along in college about what they wish someone had told them
Hmm.
to do well their first year in college. So I know I didn't prep you for this one,
That's
but
okay.
but you know, you're talking to a class of it's their third week in college
Right.
students, and from your perspective, where you sit, you know, what do you wish someone had told you as a college freshman?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Gosh, I'm going to go back in time in
I
my
know now you have to
freshman
think.
orientation days. Uh, I guess, I was a student that was very much thinking I had to have it all solved. Um, so I needed to know direction very fast and early so that I can just focus on the goal at hand. But you start learning that uh, things don't always work out the way you plan, and that's okay. Essentially, the process is what I'm trying to explain here. You're going to go through many processes, if you will, in life, and so your freshman year is, gosh, such an amazing year. I'm not going to call it crucial year because hey, we're all going to have moments where we fall or we make mistakes, and we don't want it to be so crucial where it affects you forever. No, they're important years so that essentially you're discovering. And so never forget the process. Yes, for those type A personalities out there, where we put the goal thinking that that is really what we need to obtain and focus. And that's correct. The goal is great to focus on, and to have many goals is great. But the process is really the experience, right? That is really where you encounter so much learning lessons that by the time you hit the goal, you really look back and you go, wow, I learned a lot of lessons to get to this goal. And as much as possible, I would recommend to ask for help when you don't understand something. And perhaps a key phrase that has helped me is help me understand. So that way you're not afraid to say something that perhaps you might be too shy to say to others, or you're just not used to, or you're just thinking that you're the only one. Everybody needs help from time to time, and it's okay to ask for that help. So enjoy the process. Ask for help whenever it's needed, and then from that, if you can return the favor, you really get in what you put out. So everyone, where we're at right now, as much as you can, staying focused and positive is always a good method to start thinking in everything that you apply, so that positive outcomes can come out.
Yeah.
I hope that
Oh,
helps.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. That helps a lot. And asking questions is just so key. And you know, it's hard it's really hard in high school, but I think it's a little hard in college too. And just it's an adult skill really, which I wish,
Yeah.
you know, that but you know, when one person asks a question that about something they don't understand, always the feedback I get is there are like 10 more in the class that had that question.
Right.
So even just being the person to ask it helps everybody else too.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Ryan, we did get another question. Do we have time for one more?
We do. It's okay with me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I want to get to this question. I think this
Okay.
one is from, okay, Andy. Thank you so much, Andy.
If you have time, then
Yeah, we have time for one more, and then you can take us home.
wrap it up.
All right. How are you guys connecting with people during COVID, helping them with problems they may be currently going through? That's a great question. So, um, so the neat thing about having this platform, such as the Discord application that we use, and again, I'm happy to share this afterwards so that you can get yourself acclimated if you don't know what that is. It's really a big communication application, if I had to just sum it up into one word. And is that we're able to connect in various ways through chat and then also commit to other communities and mixers. So sometimes we get together just to watch something together in this virtual sense. And that just builds community. It builds bonds. And so it allows the students to go outside of the game playing itself so that we understand a little bit of our backgrounds and what it is that one likes to do, because you're accepting a different role that the game already has designed to implement in role identification, right? And so that is a method of ours that has helped our community to essentially stay strong in moments like this, like COVID, because we don't do this jointly, right? We do this connected, synchronous. And as far as helping them with the problems that they're currently going through, well, it's a great question. So we have this team captain model. So we have captains that essentially are our leaders, if you will, within the association. And we have several of them that essentially help other teammates out. And really their role doesn't mean that they're the highly ranked player. They're really just the person that has decided to take the additional responsibility, make sure that everyone within their team is okay. And they really put themselves last, actually, and serve others first. And so, and being able to be to do that in exemplar status so that they can relay it and cultivate somebody else, because we have had transitions in leaders. That's also a skill set, and that's something that the role as an advisor does too. So I help you in that process so that you understand what it's like to work in a team environment, and then even having to relay things that are not so easy, and at the same time things that would essentially help you with the skill sets to be able to talk and bring in others in when they're feeling down. And so and the neat thing about it all is that we embrace anyone. And so anyone that is willing to share, privately, they are able to share with me. And then we also have great resources on campus too. And so it really leads to a lot of listening, learning, serving, and then being able to do what's best and provide them with the outlet and channel, so that way they know that they're cared for, and they're, we do reach out periodically to make sure that players are, or members, if you will, are well. So great question. And again, having more speakers like that also helps us so that we can help people when they're in this lull, because it happens, right? We have ups and downs, and we want to get you back up. And so to seeing what is causing you to feel down helps us in turn to see what it is that we need to do to voice up, so that we essentially think, if you're experiencing it, perhaps others are experiencing it too. So we take it very seriously. Um, but yeah, that's a great question and very much needed.
Yeah.
All right.
That is a great question. That's a great
Yeah.
question, a great one to end on. And
Mhm.
gosh, Ruben, thank you so much. I can hear your education background coming through, and how you're mentoring and scaffolding and structuring things and walking through for people. I really appreciated getting to hear more about esports. I've learned quite a lot just getting to interact, and it's nice to finally meet you in person. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing with our class.
No, thank you for the invite, and hope to do it again if you ever need anybody else. And yeah, to everybody that tuned in, thank you so much for the questions. And please feel free to reach out if you also want to get yourself associated, or if you'd like to learn more. Our community is open So thank you all.
Awesome.
All
Great.
right. All right, everybody be well. Okay, have a good one.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.